Well, Let's Bet It here, presented by Superbook Sports on Pickswise, Pickswise.com, and the Pickswise YouTube channel. I'm Mark Zeno, joined by Jared Smith. Make sure you guys download that Pickswise app, available on the Apple Store and Google Play, and of course, right here on Pickswise YouTube channel. Let us know in the comments what games you're on, what questions you have. We'll try to get to them all. We'll play a little Would You Rather today. We'll do some Thursday Night Football props with Howard Bender. Of course, our college football playoff rankings, and finally, our plays of the day. Jared, welcome in. Good morning. How are you today?
Well, I'm seeing the market move a little bit here on Thursday Night Football. I'm trying to get this under bet in before things get a little hairy. Maybe it's
Yeah.
the weather, maybe it's other things that we'll discuss, but I just saw a couple of shops shave off by about a half a point. Of course, our pal, we'll get to this game in a little bit, but our pal Cleftier likes the under tonight. So I don't think it was him. He got his bet in a couple days ago when it was 44.5. But my guess is the weather. What do you think?
It's got to be the weather. I mean, listen, Hurricane Nicole is coming up. They're expecting heavy rains, 12 to 15 mile an hour winds that are, you know, at least right now, going to wreak havoc with this game. And the rain
Yeah.
is supposed to start, by the way, sometime around 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. So the field conditions there may be poor by the time that they kick this thing off if they're getting as much rain as they expect. So um, I would look to start with. Divisional unders have been going up, like hitting near 60% this year. Primetime unders have been hitting near 60% this year. It was
Yeah.
probably an under game anyway, despite the fact that both these defenses are bad. That I wouldn't expect a lot of scoring because look at the quarterbacks you have playing in this game. And there's not a ton of weapons around. So,
Nope.
again, it certainly is something to keep track of as we go forward.
Yeah, I got it in 42.5, and we'll join up for play of the day later and see if it's still there. But I would recommend betting the 42.5s now, because if I had to bet, and I do bet, if I was a
Right.
betting man, I would say the 42 and the hook likely evaporates by game time. My guess is this closes closer to the 41 range. Just a hunch.
Yeah. So we'll keep monitoring that here throughout the show. Keep you guys updated as we go along. Time for Would You Rather, Jared, with some NFL futures bets here. Number one
Do it.
on the list. Would you rather MVP Patrick Mahomes at plus 200 or MVP Jalen Hurts at plus 250?
Great question. I think it's fair to say that these two guys deserve to be the favorites at this stage. I think it's funny because I do a spot in for a Philadelphia radio station every week. Our pals over at The Gambler, Sean Bray, shout out, and his crew. They do a fantastic job, and we've had a couple of their guys on the show before. They asked me this same question on Tuesday, and here's how I answered it. Let's say you swapped quarterbacks and you put Patrick Mahomes on the Eagles and Jalen Hurts on the Chiefs. Which team in your eyes got better based off of that swap?
Part of me actually wants to say the Chiefs. And the
Wow.
only reason is with the way Philadelphia runs the football, and their offensive philosophy. Aren't you negating some of what Patrick Mahomes? Like you have to understand. The only problem with that analogy is that you're taking different offenses and different offensive philosophies. If you're asking
Sure.
Patrick Mahomes to hand off as often as Jalen Hurts does, his numbers aren't going to be that great. Um, Jalen Hurts in the Chiefs offense might be as good a performer and put up more gaudy numbers than Mahomes does. I mean, yeah,
Fair.
call it just a guess. I know the
The
easy
most
answer is Mahomes.
valuable player, though, right? That's where I'm trying, because we talk about this all the time, where it's the most valuable player. If you take that player off that team, what is that team? If you put Patrick Mahomes on the Eagles, now you're 100% right. Like they do play different styles, and styles make fights, but you have to choose one for the MVP. Like it doesn't matter what style they play, you still have to pick one. You can't have different categories for running quarterbacks or passing quarterbacks. I kind of think the Eagles are a powerhouse. If Patrick Mahomes is on the Eagles and you have those weapons, my guess is Nick Sirianni figures out a way to make Patrick Mahomes very effective. Now, that's not taking anything away from Andy Reid, but my point is the cast around Mahomes right now, I don't think is as strong as it is in Philly with A.J. Brown and with Devontae Smith and with a stable of backs that have experience in the backfield. So my point is, I think Jalen Hurts right now more valuable to Patrick Mahomes right now more valuable to his team because the supporting cast around him is not as strong. Whereas Jalen Hurts, I think if you put a lot of quarterbacks on the Eagles, Mahomes included, the Eagles are still humming. But if you put Jalen Hurts on the Chiefs, I don't know if the Chiefs are as good, right? Because the cast around him is not as strong. I don't know. That's just because these guys are neck and neck right now. I think these two absolutely deserve to be the favorite, and the Josh Allen injury is going to play a big factor in where the market moves. But I think I would give a slight edge to Mahomes just because I think, again, he's doing more with less. Just a slight edge, though.
I'd give an edge to Hurts because as long as the team stays undefeated, he's going to win the thing. If they go undefeated, he's winning the thing.
Absolutely,
I mean,
of course. So, do you think they're going undefeated, though?
They're not honestly playing anybody that can beat them. I think they will get tripped up by a division opponent, but in reality, they're not better. Probably. None of the teams that they're going to play the rest of their way are better than they are. Doesn't mean they can't lose. They're just not better than they are. So, speaking of the NFC East, right, Cowboys to win the NFC at plus 525 or Ravens to win the AFC at plus 600.
Man, that's tough. I think the Ravens. So, to me, the Cowboys, I really, really want to buy into this Cowboys team because I love Micah Parsons. But comes down at the end of the day, big spot, tough game. Who do you trust more in that spot? Do you trust Harbaugh or do you trust Mike McCarthy to get his team ready to scheme in the playoffs? I don't know if I fully trust McCarthy. I think this Ravens team is the best coach, one of the best coach teams in the league. They've been one of the most well-run organizations for years. I think I trust the brain trust of the Ravens a little more. Cowboys, I think maybe have a little more talent, maybe a little luckier with some injuries this year too. But I think I would give the nod to the Ravens here. Also, the AFC now with Josh Allen's injury, a little more wide open than we expected, where it was hard for me to put a team that wasn't the Bills or the Chiefs in the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago. Now I'm not so sure. Now I think the AFC might be a little more wide open than we think.
Speaking of coaches, for Coach of the Year, Robert Saleh at plus 800 or Brian Daboll at plus 800?
Man, these are good questions.
It's got to be Daboll.
Jets have a lot more talent. Yeah. I think Daboll's done more with less, right? Like, there's just not a lot going on there with the Giants. Like, the Giants, to me, are one of the more least talented rosters in the league, for sure, in terms of how many wins that they've had. But even with the wins, like, I guess Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson, like, who would you rather have a quarterback right now? I might choose Daniel Jones, frankly. But maybe that's a little Jets bias seeping through. But yeah, Daboll gets the nod here.
I'd choose Johnny Moxon, but I don't think he's one of the choices that's available. Moxon. One of the choices we do have available to help us preview Thursday
Charlie Tweeter over Zach Wilson at this point. Right?
He's the head of content at Fantasy Alarm. Howard Bender is joining us here on Let's Bet It this morning. Howard, good morning and welcome to what we expect to be a very wet Thursday night football contest. How are you, my friend?
I don't want to live your life.
Yeah.
That's what I got to say.
Nobody is lining up to live my life. Trust me. There is nobody on
Come on, man. It was a Johnny Moxon quote. I'm in here with you guys. I'm in the trenches.
I understand. We could go be heroes for the next 24 minutes. Let's do that. Let's go be heroes. All right. Heroes tonight for the Falcons and the Panthers. We were just talking about the total in this game already dropping. I'm seeing it down at certain shops below 42 already. And it is moving quickly. I locked in at 42 just here a moment ago. So side or total tonight, Howard, which way are you leaning?
I'm doing both, actually. I think as long as it stays under a field goal, I'm going with the Falcons minus the 2.5 points. And as far as the total goes, I'm leaning on that under at 42. Tropical storm / Hurricane Nicole, whatever her name is, she's going to be dropping a lot of rain in the southeast. So I kind of feeling that we're going to get a run heavy, sort of a sloppy game. Keep it low scoring, keep it on the ground.
Yeah, that's the vibe tonight, and all of our experts have chimed in that vein as well. Club TA gave out under 44.5, which was available as late as Tuesday, and of course 44 being that key total that's been the most landed on total in the NFL over the last few years. But your prop card very thick tonight, thick, luscious, and beautiful, Howard, just like your hair these days, right? Talk me through these Mariota props.
I don't see this being a very heavy passing game. Arthur Smith absolutely loves the run, and now he's got, not only does he have Cordero Patterson back, but he's still weaving in Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley. This is a coach who doesn't like his quarterback to throw, and it's understandable because we've all seen Mariota throw. So 157.5 passing yards in bad weather with 3 running backs active. I like the under from -115. And then I saw his longest completion was 31.5. So my feeling is, as long as Damiere Byrd doesn't submarine this pick with with one random long yards after the catch effort, I like the under at -120 for this one.
Yeah, Howard, I may let you pick my play of the day today because we are simpatico a little bit. I'm stuck between 2 different plays. We'll get to that at the end here. Let's finish on the Panthers side. Donta Foreman, who's taken over since CMC was traded. His numbers are quickly starting to inflate. Everybody's catching on that he can actually run the ball. So where are you going here?
Well, there are 2 props I'm looking at. Number one is the over 54.5 rushing yards. Again, it's a very run-centric offense. They don't want to get the ball into PJ Walker's hands if they can help it. There is also that possibility that they make a mid-game switch and throw in a little Sam Darnold there later on. So for me, it's all going to be about Donta Foreman. I know Chuba Hubbard's back. I know they've got Raheem Blackshear, but I think that this offense definitely runs through Donta Foreman. And listen, the Falcons aren't giving up a ton of rushing yards. They are giving up 106.8 or 9 per game on the season, which I think, Foreman, hitting his 55 yards or over, I think that is worthwhile. Falcons have also given up 11 rushing touchdowns, and that's like 4th or 5th most in the NFL. So why not throw a little, sprinkle a little anytime touchdown? What is it? Plus 125 for Donta Foreman. Get some plus odds there because, listen, if they're sitting there inside the green zone, that's where Carolina just wants to pound it on the up the middle, right on the ground. So I think an anytime touchdown for Donta Foreman is in the works as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cordero Patterson rush receiving over 65.5. So the theme here, obviously, Howard, is heavy run, not heavy pass. And I guess the question is, besides that prop, when you look at the prop market, is it important for you to correlate like that? Do you like to zigzag? Because all of your props very correlated to a game script tonight that we all agree with. But obviously, if that goes off script, then all of a sudden you've got a lot of risk out there. Does it scare you a little bit to load up all of your props onto one side of a game script to correlate like that? Or is that the strategy every week and you just have to hope that your game script is right?
That's more or less my strategy for the week. I mean, you're not betting heavy action with the prop bets. So if you feel like you've got the read on the game and you know what the game flow, game script is going to look like, then you want to bet in accordance to that. If you wanted to hedge and turn around and throw something on one of the receivers, you could. I kind of feel like, I'm doing that a little bit with Patterson. I figure his rushing yard prop was somewhere in like the 53 to 54 yard range as well. I'll throw some receiving yards in there for him for the short passing game. But, again, when you're looking at 2 QBs who the coach just doesn't want them to throw, and you're looking at bad weather, I feel like you're just kind of throwing your money away. If you've got the discretionary income to go ahead and spread it all over and say, well, I think it's going to be run heavy, but let me sprinkle a little DJ Moore and a little Damiere Byrd or something like that. You can. That's not the way I bet. I like betting straight up games. And if I'm doing some prop betting. I'm staying focused on my breakdown of the game, and for better or for worse.
All right, let me ask you this here, Howard, because I'm tossing back and forth between two things for the play of the day. One of them is the under tonight, but also Tyler Algier's rushing yards prop is over 31.5. He's gone over this number in 6 straight games. Carolina has the bottom 5 rush defense in the league. The only thing that's slightly scaring me off it is the weather, and the slop fest that it could be. Certainly not, or taking certain play sets and carries away from him over a bigger back like Caleb Huntley and a more sure-handed back like Cordero Patterson. So I know we talked about Algier a minute ago, but if you had to pick one, and I stink at player props, a full disclosure, and plus it's juicy at minus 130. Give me of those two what you would use for your play of the day, because I will defer to the genius that is Howard Bender.
I don't know about the genius that is Howard Bender. Right? It's the genius that is Jared Smith that we're all here for.
No,
but listen, I gotta let me brown nose a little bit there, just a little.
All
okay,
right,
I'm good.
I'll take it.
I
don't get a lot of compliments these days, Howard. It's mostly hate, so I'll take it. Kindness over weakness, right?
I still have my my Jared Smith lookalike.
What did you do to that thing?
Well, you're in disguise and you have laser eyes. And who wouldn't want laser eyes, right?
Come on. What's going on my forehead, though? Looks, funny story. I got hit in the head with a baseball bat when I was 5. If you look closely, there is a little bump still on my head. I think you replicated that very well.
It's a scar right there. There it goes.
There you go. It actually
so, you got a scar on your head.
Dude, like it's right here. You can see it. Sometimes when I sweat, it like gets red. And I look like I have a horn coming out of my head. It's kind of disgusting and gross, but I can't believe I just revealed that to you people.
See, I'm so observant here. I just sit and I stare at the screen all the time. I'm like, Jared.
Stop.
At
your workstation. That is scary.
It's right there. Well, when I was filling in for you, I had to make sure that Lauren didn't get all lonesome and upset about it. So
no, she was probably happy to have a day off from my absurdities.
Mark, do you really want to know the difference whether I'm picking Caleb Huntley or Tyler Algier? You still want me to answer that?
No, I'm asking you if you would rather take Tyler Algier's over yards rushing prop or the under in the game.
Oh! I think I'd rather take the under in the game, actually. Because, listen, Algier, he's gone over that mark in the past 6 games, but you're also now talking about a shift in carries with Cordero Patterson coming back. I mean, clearly he's the favorite of Arthur Smith. He's his number one guy. To sit there and say, listen, could he go over the 30? Was it 31.5? Can he go over that number? Yeah. It's definitely possible. I just don't know how many carries.
6 straight.
I'm worried that we're going to see so many 3 and outs in this game, like that it's going to be tough for these running backs to really pick up a lot of momentum. So if I had the preference, I think it would be the game total under over Tyler Algier's rushing yard prop.
Okay. All right. Noted. All right. Let's move on here real quickly.
I didn't give him the answer he wanted. I'm so sorry.
That's quite okay. It's quite okay. If you had to pick one right now, who do you have winning the NFC South, Howard?
It's so disgusting. It's so grimy.
It really is.
You know what? No, I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna say Atlanta's gonna win this one. I don't believe in the Bucks. Wow. I don't believe in the Bucks. I get it. I just think that there's something fundamentally wrong, and I know that Brady got to the podium last week after that big win, and he was like, "Oh, it's effing awesome," and he's like all psyched, and everybody now immediately, every Tom Brady truther out there has been like, oh, the GOAT's back. He's ready. It's going to be amazing. I don't necessarily know how much of the problem was just him when you look at how many drop passes we're seeing from Evans, from Godwin, even Julio Jones is in there, the Cade Otton, they're tight end. There's an off-putting kind of feel about the Bucks right now, and I just don't necessarily know if I want to really invest in them. I feel like Atlanta is playing a decent game, a decent enough game where this division is super weak. I don't buy the Saints. I don't buy the Panthers at all. So I feel like that Atlanta is just basically battling with Tampa Bay. And I'm going to turn around and I'm going to say that I think that there are more issues in Tampa than there are in Atlanta.
He is the head of content at Fantasy Alarm. Check him out on Twitter at RotoBuzzGuy. Howard Bender, thanks so much for your time. Enjoy Thursday night football, and let's go cash some tickets, brother.
Let's go cash some tickets. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate the time.
You know what it kind of reminds me of, Zeno? You know, like the Bucks thing, what Howard just said. It's like so Bitcoin's been crashing the last few weeks, and then it'll go up like marginally compared to what it's down. And all the Bitcoin maxis will be like, oh, it's back. We're going to the moon. And it's like, if you zoom out and look at the chart, it's like, and then just like a little spike up. That's kind of what the Bucks remind me of. But
yeah,
we'll see. See what happens in Munich this week.
To say the least. All right, on to college football here. And the two teams that everybody, well, at least everybody that's not undefeated at this point, everybody outside the top four is looking at and hoping for this week. I think the majority of them are hoping for Alabama to pull out a win, and they're hoping for Texas to pull out a win. Now, you ask why Alabama? Well, if Alabama pulls out a win, that continues to keep Tennessee's win over Alabama very strong and LSU's win over Alabama very strong. Alabama takes a third loss, and the shine comes off both of those teams and their strength of schedule for Tennessee and LSU as well. Everybody is rooting for Texas to knock off TCU because TCU takes a loss, it likely will knock them out of the college football playoff discussion, despite the fact that they have played a fairly tough schedule this year. All that said, Jared, you look at the odds for teams to win the college football playoff national championship. Georgia, the favorite at 110, Ohio State at plus 180. You know, and Michigan at plus 800 is interesting just simply because the variance and the disparity between those two teams who are going to play each other, and one is going to have a decided advantage over the other. I think, obviously value on Michigan at 8-1.
Yeah, because Michigan will be, you would think, significantly cheaper than 8-1 on the money line when they face Ohio State. I think that's very fair to say. I would I actually don't know. I have to look at a couple of the rating systems that I use, but I would guess Ohio State would be a touchdown-ish favorite in that game. So maybe Michigan will be 2-1 on the money line. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I'd have to go back and look because sometimes the eye test doesn't match up what the numbers say. I'll tell you this. The eye test tells me Georgia's the best team in the country by a pretty wide margin. So say what you want about the rest of the teams on that list and your chance of cashing a ticket. I think you're asking for trouble if you're going past where you said that Michigan at 8-1 of any chance of cashing a ticket. Now you could get a Tennessee or an Oregon into the college football championship game, and they will be a heavy underdog. I mean, we just saw Georgia as a 10-point favorite at home. You would think it'll be 7 on a neutral against Tennessee. It'll probably be higher than that against Oregon on a neutral. I mean, they beat them 42-3 on a neutral. Neutral, I'll use that in quotations, earlier this season. So if you're betting one of those other teams right now that was just on your screen, Michigan, TCU, I think is going to lose this week. Tennessee, Oregon, 30-1, LSU, 40-1. Like, I don't think you're going to feel good about cashing that ticket. It's going to be Georgia in the college football championship game. Who they face, we'll see. What the standings, what the rankings look like, we'll see. I think Oregon is intriguing to me because I think that game they played week 1 against Georgia deserves to be kind of pushed to the side a little bit based off the circumstances. It was game 1 of Dan Lanning's tenure against his former boss in Georgia's backyard. I don't think the championship games will be played in Atlanta this year. I think it's Peach Bowl and Cotton Bowl, Dallas, and actually, is it Peach? I might be wrong about that.
Here's the interesting situation. Here's the interesting situation. Georgia and Oregon, okay, kicked off the season in the Kickoff Classic, sponsored by Chick-fil-A at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. If Georgia meets Oregon as the 1-4 matchup, they will meet at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
So it is
with Chick-fil-A sponsoring the Peach Bowl.
That's
so same
ironic.
venue, same presenting sponsor, same two teams on week 1 and in the semifinals.
It's crazy. That's bad for Oregon, frankly. That makes me not want to bet Oregon.
Oregon is the most underrated team right now inside the top 10.
Probably. But that you have to imagine that spread's going to be so big that wouldn't you rather just bet Oregon? No, but it'll probably be 10, right? Like, wouldn't you rather just bet Oregon money line in that game than have to sit on that 30-1 ticket for the next how many weeks and sweat out a Utah game, sweat out a Civil War against Oregon State, and then you get to the chance. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, where's the actual value on betting Oregon at 30-1 right now, where they still have to win 3 games against Pac-12 opponents and the Pac-12 championship? And then, oh, by the way, they're going to be a double-digit underdog against Georgia anyways, and they're probably going to be 4 or 5-1 on the money line. You know, like, that's kind of where I'm at right now with betting one of these underdog teams that's not Georgia to win it all right now.
I'll say this much, and I will make a quasi bold prediction here, and I hope our social media team will mark this. There will be 2 teams from the same conference that will get in the college football playoff, but it ain't the SEC. Yeah. It's the Big Ten.
Really?
Hear me out. Alabama loses this week. It's going to knock down the win for Tennessee and LSU. And that means if Alabama loses this week, that means Ole Miss wins, and they are in the driver's seat to get to the SEC title game against Georgia, at which Georgia will win and knock Ole Miss out. And you're going to sit here and explain to me that a one-loss Tennessee team who didn't appear in their conference championship game put together a better resume than Michigan or Ohio State when they're one of their biggest wins is over a 3-loss team? Doesn't work that way. Michigan and Ohio State would get in.
Beaten? So wait, what's the scenario with Michigan and Ohio State? Who wins that game? Walk me through that game.
Michigan would have to win that game. I think Ohio State has a slight edge over Michigan as far as in the committee's mind. So Michigan wins that game. Ohio State is a 1-loss team. You get Georgia, Michigan, and then you get Ohio State at 4. And when Oregon runs the table, they'll be in at 3.
You know what your saving grace is with that take? Notre Dame beating Clemson. Because Ohio State has at least a win over Notre Dame non-conference to call, to put in their back pocket. That is a huge – like, that was almost the first domino that needed to fall for this scenario to play out. You needed Ohio State's resume because I think it's hard to put Ohio State because then you're saying Tennessee that doesn't play in their conference championship game shouldn't get in, but Ohio State that doesn't play in their conference championship game deserves to get in, and Ohio State didn't beat Bama. Like, that's where I struggle with that. Now, I don't mind the crazy Big Ten scenario because being a Big Ten guy, I mean, you can see the freaking stadium right there. I'd love good things for what's good for the goose, good for the gander. But if I'm a committee member and I see Ohio State 1 loss, no conference title, Tennessee 1 loss, no conference title, I don't know if I'm taking Ohio State there. I guess I could.
Generally,
it's tight. It's definitely a toss-up. It's definitely, you can make cases for both.
Get the resume for a second. Is Ohio State better than Tennessee? The answer is yes. So if it's a 1-loss Ohio State team, a 1-loss Tennessee team, Ohio State is better. So you'd get Georgia, Michigan, Oregon as a conference champ if they run the table gets 3, and Ohio State gets 4.
Let me look at Sagarin really quick, and let me see where they have those 2 teams. I'm curious. See, Sagarin has Ohio State as the number 1 team in the country right now, ahead of Georgia.
Okay.
Sagarin, which has been one of the more reliable and reputable rating systems in the country the last 2 decades. Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Tennessee 5, Oregon 6. So, yeah, listen, the committee's been fluky with this stuff. I think right now it's all theater because a lot of this is going to work itself out over the next 3 weeks and 4 weeks. But I could see that happening. Like, it's not a completely far-fetched reality where the committee's like 1 loss Tennessee, 1 loss Ohio State, both teams not playing in their conference title. I can see Ohio State being the 4 seed there over Tennessee. I could. I mean, listen, Sagarin's got Ohio State right now as the number 1 team in the country. And if Michigan, the number 4 team, beats them, I think the key is that game has to be close. It has to be nip and tuck. It can't be what it was last year where Michigan just completely blasted them. So you need a lot of things to go right, but definitely plausible based off of the scenario that we're looking at.
Well, plausible that you guys should all be downloading the Superbook Sports app. Let's get it. Let's bet it rather as presented by Superbook Sports. Go to superbook.com, download the app today. And this season, we're all rooting for safeties. That's because Superbook will give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. Just place a $100 pregame bet on any spread or any total. And if there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, not the one you bet on, any game, you'll get a $50 bonus. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Well, it's that time, the moment of truth here, Jared, as we launch upon our plays of the day. I will let you go first, since there's a lot of us all thinking the same way this evening.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the plays of the day, we can kind of congeal them into one, and then you can offshoot and do the other one. But I think we're kind of all in agreement. By the way, there is some college football on the site for today. Sam Avalone has a play on Georgia Southern. Louisiana Lafayette as a 3-star, but most of the 3 stars currently on the site are for Saturday, including Mark Zinno on the card, Chris Occasion. I like this, Chris. I like Chris's bet for sure. And a couple of other ones. So check out 3 stars. But I'm on the under tonight, 42.5. I also put a unit on the first half under at 20.5. I'm doubling down, double dipping. I'm going to go Costanza on us tonight. But the official play of the day will be the full game under at 42.5. So this is a nugget that I love. And this is one that will likely get kind of brushed under the rug because of what these 2 teams did last, like 2 weeks ago. But division rematches, when the first one goes over by 9 points or more, and this one went way over, 37-34. The total was 41.5. I know because I bet the under in that game. The under in the return game between the divisional rivals, 40-17. That is a massive, massive trend with a pretty big sample size, frankly. And again, these teams played 2 weeks ago. The game was 10-7 with a minute to go in the half. And then PJ Walker threw a pick 6. And from that point on, the game exploded. 24-20 in the second half. So the situation's a little different here. That was an indoor game. And again, pick 6 at the end of a half. You know, the middle 8, as they say, is so huge in determining what the pace and the feeling of the game will be. The game was trending under, and then the pick 6 just woke it up. But I think it'll play out a little differently this time. First of all, PJ Walker has been so bad since that game that you would imagine Carolina's not going to be very happy and interested in throwing the ball. And of course, you got the divisional under trend that's just been so hot this year, 30-13. It's almost 70% to the under. So I will lean on the variance trend and saying that first game was an outlier, and this game is going to be played much truer to what we thought this matchup was going to be 2 weeks ago, which is 10-7 at half. And I think that's going to be the vibe tonight. Plus the weather, and of course the field conditions. You're not playing on a perfect turf in Atlanta. You're playing on Carolina's field, which can be a little bit chunky at times if you've watched some outdoor games there in Charlotte. And I'll say this game stays under 42.5. Play of the day.
All right. Well, I wrote down one of 2 bets. One of them is under 42.5 on the show sheet. I'm going to leave it there. But in the interest of giving our audience a little bit of diversification, I'll take my play of the day to a player prop for the Atlanta Falcons. Tyler Algier, over 31.5 rushing yards. Tyler Algier, in the last 6 games, has gone over this number by easy margins, with the exception of one game. Of course, it was against the Panthers last time. He only went for 39 yards, but has gone over this number in 6 straight. The Panthers have the 5th worst rush defense in the league this year, allowing over 135 yards per game on the ground. Not only that, the Panthers allow 4.5 yards per rush. Over their last 3 games, they're allowing 5 yards per rush, including giving up over 6 their last time out. And so that is enough for me to back Tyler Algier here. He's getting a bigger role in the offense. Talk about opportunities, guys. He's had at least double-digit carries in 6 consecutive games as well. Don't see any reason why Arthur Smith would go away from that number in tonight's contest. He's getting more comfortable, and a breakout game last week with 99 yards. Tyler Algier over 31.5 tonight for the Atlanta Falcons. So I am with you. Simpatico already locked in my bet for the under tonight as well. But let's try to give a little diversification. Maybe I can get a player prop right once in, a blue moon. It's not my forte, to say the least.
I think we're going to hit both. I think I think it's going to be 10-7 at half, and Algier is going to rip off one big run, and then we're just going to hope for a chill vibes in the second half.
Little bit of hesitancy with the weather. That could slow the track down a little bit, because what happens. He has 25 yards.
That stadium, that field turf is not good. It's like David Tepper, for all the money he has, you would think would spend a little more to get that. I remember some weather games there with just chunky monkey field turf.
Well, we'll see how it all plays. For Jared Smith, I am Mark. Mind you guys, Pickswise app. It's available on Apple Store or Google Play. Make sure you subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel. Give us a like and a thumbs up there. Hope you guys have a wonderful Thursday. Enjoy Thursday Night Football. Let's Bet It back tomorrow for another edition right here on Friday. Have a wonderful day. Go get it. Go bet it. Cash some tickets. Talk to you tomorrow.